Where do we go when it's time to leave? Tell me, honey, tell me, oh, when we feel, where do we go? The time is near. I have so many things that I feel. Where do we go? Where will we go from here, my dear, my dear? I don't know where we will be. Where do we go when it's time to leave? Tell me, honey, tell me, oh, when we feel, where do we go? The time is near. Where do we go? Where do we go from here, my dear, my dear? I don't know where we will be. Oh, I feel so far, baby. We can make our own way. I can say, yeah, yeah, yeah. Where do we go?
Welcome to Straight No Chaser, the talk show. My name is Fountaine. This is our first broadcast on YouTube. You can go to YouTube, right? Go to YouTube. I'll give you the step-by-step. Click on YouTube. right? Once you're on YouTube, in the search department, you have to put in Straight No Chaser, the talk show Fountaine. Fountaine. And then you can watch the show in a panoramic vision. So, to my left, I got to turn my camera right here. To my immediate left, we have, can they see Sexy Sandy? Hold up. There she go.
How you doing?
She's doing good, right? You doing good?
I'm doing good.
Okay, you ready?
Eh.
Okay, that means yes. You know what? I have to laugh sometimes because she be ready for my bullshit sometimes. That's what she's ready for. Directly in front of me. Damn, I switched my camera now. I had to switch it back. Hold on. I got a cheap camera. Sorry. It's my dude Kyle, right? Kyle is the guy that I said is dressed like a professor. And we were in the deli downstairs getting some, fruit punch, whatever soup. I had some soup and stuff like that. And I was speaking to Kyle about the subject, and I said, it's not about badass kids. Let me let y'all know. It's about for me, it's a dilemma. It's something for me to ponder and question, because you may have great parents. As far as the outside world can see, as far as, neighbors and teachers and whatever, you make every PTA meeting, the father's always there, whatever. And the kids turn out to be some real malicious little fucks. Like, where did you want to say, where did I go wrong? Like, what did I do? I gave you everything. I gave you love, attention, warmth. You can talk to me. I was open with everything, and the kids still turn out a certain way, like in a very negative way. And the flip side is you have parents that were horrible, verbally abusive, physically abusive, spiritually abusive. And the kids turn out to be really, really decent people. They're nothing like their parents. So, Kyle, I want to ask you, where does the influence start and stop?
I said, I see it as not just one answer, because we have so many different elements that can affect the child's upbringing. Like you said, you have the good parents, you have the bad parents, you have the good just family members in general, whether it be uncles, cousins, aunts, then you have friends, and you can also look at it, the outside of the home environment, where you're talking about schooling and just peers in general, and just their interactions, with all of these individuals, definitely can affect their mind state and their mentality in terms of how they just perceive what they should be doing or what people think that they should be doing.
Sandy, would you like to give us an opinion on that particular thing?
Not just yet.
Okay, not just yet.
yet.
Not just yet. She's gonna hold off for a minute. Okay. I want to ask this question to the people who are watching now. There's, Charles Barkley had made a comment years back, and he says, I'm not a role model, right? And he was dead right. And people were up in arms about his commentary about him not being a role model. They're saying, well, yes, you are. You're the sports figure. You're some child's hero. You're, all of these things that they putting all this weight on his shoulders to be the consummate, individual. Always do this, always do that. He got busted, with a prostitute, whatever the case may be, before. And he's real brash. And the police officer had said something to him like, hey, well, you're Charles Barkley. Like, what the hell? What were you doing with the prostitute? He said, man, she suck a mean one. Yeah, he said that. He said, yo, she suck a mean one, boy.
Kept it 100. Then.
Yeah, he kept it 100. And people were in an uproar about him. And I had said, to a few people, you shouldn't be in an uproar about this man saying whatever he wants to say, because your influence over your children should be powerful enough and where you can sit down with them and have a discussion and say, see, look, this is the type of activity that will get you this result. This is the type of activity where you have to be responsible. You know, you can use his actions as an example, right? And as a teaching moment. I don't personally think that there's any man outside of the probably her grandfather and me that have more influence on my daughter. And I wanted to make sure that it was like that.
Right.
And any mishap or any trial or tribulation that my daughter has had, and there's been a few, I never thought it was my fault, you know, because I did my best. You know, like if I told my daughter something or I tried to prepare her for something, if she took heed to it or not, it's not my fault. You feel me? Some people are just curious. You can tell a person, don't do this, don't do that. And then in their mind, they're like, damn, why they keep telling me not to do it? Now I'm curious about doing it because you warned me, you know, or some people think that they're so strong that they can resist these particular things, you know, or it won't affect me. Oh, no, I ain't like the rest of them people. I'm strong. I'm this, I'm that. And not really realizing that they can be weak in certain situations. And we saw that as parents in them. Like, you know your child. And you know that they can be vulnerable to certain things even more so than they know. So you try to tell them things because you really want to say, listen, I know you better than you know you. And I know that you could succumb to certain things. And I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to learn the hard way. Even though some of us
they want to learn the hard way.
But here's the thing.
They want to learn the hard way.
Do they oh, let me get the camera because I want to ask you, do they really want to learn the hard way, or do you think they realize that it's as hard as you are painting it to be?
Well, they don't think we know anything. So, of course, we don't know nothing. We don't know anything at all. So, they're going to try it anyway. Whatever it is, they're going to try it. We did the same thing.
But okay, question. Could it be they think that we don't know anything because we don't tell them what we know?
That's a part of it because we don't, you know, our lives aren't an open book to our children.
To an extent, should
To
it
an
be?
extent, it should be.
Yeah.
So in retrospect, raising my daughter and the way she's turning out now and conversations with you, I realized that there are a few things that I might have wanted to, you know, explain to my daughter. And I didn't.
Well, I don't want to call that a fault, right? Because like you said, in retrospect, you know, in hindsight, it's 2020. I don't want to say it's a fault, but it's something that, I don't know, could it be corrected? Like if we sit down, and even now, you sit down and explain
my
something.
daughter's 19 years old. At this point, there's no correcting. She's already developed her own mindset. She has friends influencing her. And she's, you know, out in the world and going to try and figure things out herself.
Right.
Well, concerning her outlook on newer things, let's say, for instance, college, you know, a vocational education versus an academic education, and you're stressing one particular thing, right? And she's saying, "No, Ma, you don't understand. No, Ma, you don't understand," right? And you may have had an experience where, you know, you wish you would have went down this educational road as opposed to going down another educational road.
Well, I had that experience. I wanted to be a nurse.
Well, is that something you've sat down with her and you spoke about this and explained to her?
I actually don't think my daughter knows that I wanted to be a nurse.
And okay.
Again, and in retrospect, I should have sat down and told Christina a few things.
Yeah, but now, is it too late to sit down? Because I think that when we're different parents, in my perspective, we're different parents to adults than we are to children, right? We have a more adult-like conversation, you know what I'm saying, with our children. That sounds oxymoronic, adult conversation with our children, but y'all know what I mean. But we have a different kind of conversation now, right? Whereas we can reveal certain things on an adult level, and we can be harsh and brash and still love them and still hug them and not kind of baby them or pamper them because they're little kids. Now they can take it, so to speak. You feel me? Kyle, you have a daughter?
I have one of each.
Okay.
I have a son and a daughter.
Your job is done.
I have one of each, and that's it. Like, Yeah, so my son's 11,
Mhm.
and my daughter, actually, she just had a birthday Sunday. She turned 7.
Okay.
And I definitely agree with as to the communication part of it. Definitely dealing with my son, especially also the fact, he's one of us. He's Team Virgo.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So seeing him develop, I can understand some of his, I guess, tendencies and mind thoughts of how he's processing information. So I think it helps in terms of the way I communicate with him. And as my, I guess, moments of realizing that some of the conversations you have with kids, you don't need to sugarcoat it as much because we think, oh, they're kids, they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
He was, I think it was on 4 now, and we just went from a funeral. His great aunt had passed or whatever, so he saw the whole process of the funeral. So we got home, and he was like, well, what happened to aunt? What happened to her? So I'm like, okay, wow, I got to explain death right now, right at bedtime. Like, this is the question he put at bedtime. So I said, all right. So I thought about it, analyzed like stuff that was in his life that can possibly relate it to. And I guess luckily for me, in his daycare, they just went through the process of going over how butterflies come to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much told him, it's like, okay, but your aunt, she lived her life specifically in this stage. And at a certain point, the body is no longer needed. And the energy now transforms from being a body to being something different, kind of like how, you go through the worm and the chrysalis and then the butterfly. So now she's at this next stage as a butterfly, well, just in people form. He looked at me and said, oh, okay, good night. And I was like, all right. You know what I mean? Like, so, I guess it's a juggling act because, as you say, each child is different.
Mm-hmm.
So that conversation might not work with my daughter, but it's.
Would you approach it different because she's a female?
I would at least try. I would try that method to see, what she makes of it. And then based on her questioning from the scenario I just gave her, well then, okay, she got this part of it, whatever. It's okay. So now how can I fix the part that she just may not quite understand to something that she relates to?
I find that certain things that come up with children and adults, the questions that they have, specifically, where do babies come from?
Oh my God.
Right? And I remember asking my mother, hey mommy, if you're watching, mommy, where do how I said, how are babies made? And she says, well, a man puts his penis in the woman's vagina. And she said this, and I get it now. She says, after a length of time, maybe a few minutes. I didn't get it. I didn't get the
Right,
few minutes
right.
part, right? A few minutes. The woman will probably get pregnant. And I said, well, what's pregnant? She says that's when the sperm meets the egg. She gave it to me the real technical way, right? And I was like, oh, okay. But I'm young, and I'm like, why do people do you just want to do that? Like, or you have to plan to have kids? And she said, well, no. She says that's called intercourse, and it actually feels good, and it was made to feel good. She wasn't saying like for her.
Right.
She was saying like it was made to feel good, so people would do it.
Right.
So that our species could continue on, reproducing. So I was like, oh, okay, all right. And so in my mind, I'm thinking every time somebody had sex, they was trying to have a baby.
Right.
That's what my mind said. Like, oh, they want to have a baby so they can make it feel good, and then they could want to do. I'm 5 years old, whatever the case may be. I do think at times that we as parents, and I say we meaning everybody, if sex wasn't explained to us from the from the natural aspect of it, from the lustful aspect of it, from the savage aspect of it, because rape, molestation, all of that is sexually involved.
Right.
If it's not explained to us, we don't really know how to explain it to our children. We know what we may do, but some of the things that we may do or we may have done, we don't necessarily want our kids to think about that. We try to shield them from certain things.
Right.
Like when you were saying about death, you want to put it in the most palatable way.
Right.
Sometimes the most palatable way is the way that it really, really is, as opposed to a story. I remember my daughter and I were in her doctor's office, and somebody had wrote on the wall, so and so sucks dick, right? And my daughter said, "Well, Daddy, what's that say?" And I said, "Whoa, somebody wrote that in the doctor's office." I said, "Well, Dick is like Dick Gregory, Dick Clark, Dick Clark. That's like another way of saying Richard." And she said, "Oh," she said, "but isn't that what boys have too?" And I'm like this.
Right.
An alarm went off, and it said to me at that particular time, the alarm said, and I said to myself, "Wow, you know what? I need to just be straight up with her, because somebody else, she's hearing it,
Right. She's getting it from outside,
and I don't want any conflicting stories." I gave it a little, around the bush answer. Somebody else is saying it exactly the way it is. I don't want them to be more credible in her eyes when it comes down to questions than her own father. That's what I don't want. When you start going to them as opposed to coming to me about this and that, then that means I'm not doing my job. Explaining sex, Sandy, to a girl can be quite different than explaining it to a boy, a young boy. As a mother, what's it like when that question comes up?
I avoided a lot of them. I remember when she was 5 years old, sitting at the kitchen table, all of a sudden she says, "Mommy, what is sex?" I'm watching TV, like, what is what?
What is this 5 years old thing?
What,
You was 4.
Yeah, she was 5.
Yeah.
She was 5. And another time she came out of school, I came to pick her up, and she asked me, "Mommy, what's a birth control pill?" I said, "What?" I said, "Christina, who told you that?" She said in school they said that one of her friends says that her mother takes birth control pills so they don't have no babies. I said, "Oh my God." So I did explain to her what that was. I said, "Well, people have sex, they have intercourse, and they don't want to get pregnant. They don't want another baby for whatever reason. And yes, they take these little pills, and it prevents you from getting pregnant." Mm-hmm. But the 5-year-old sitting at my kitchen table, I said, "Christina, eat your food." Because she was having dinner.
Were you panting like?
Oh, I had palpitations and everything. Like, oh my God.
And now, okay.
But I did have the conversations with her as she got older. Unfortunately, as she got older, because she was learning them in school, and she brought back a bag of condoms and female condoms and lubricants. I'm like, "Christina, what is this?"
A lubricant?
Yeah, it's in little packets.
No,
yeah.
I'm saying they do. But see, that's it. It's a difference between sex education, right, and sexual instruction.
Yeah, it's almost like promotion that they're doing right now.
But
when you get to that point,
Yeah, I had even told Christina that I have to go to Amazon and get her some. And I had explained to her why. Get her some dental dams. Mm-hmm. So I had explained to her why she needs to use these things. I said it's not the most natural thing to do, but you have to protect yourself. It's a barrier.
But now, see, here's the thing. Someone will say that when you talk to your children about things, about life, that they don't need these worries. Like you're young, you don't need to worry about all these different things.
Yes, they do.
I remember. When I was young, I was about 10 years old. And I was selling 8-track tapes on Eastern Parkway, right? So I made me a little money. I had like about maybe $100 saved up. At 10, I had $100 saved up. And things were kind of tight. And my mother asked me, because she knew I had some money, and she says, "I need to borrow some money." 10. So I'm like, "Okay, what you need, you know,
Right.
what you need, right? And she said, well, how much you got? She said, I know you've been out there making money. And I said, well, you know, I got a little something, whatever. And I said, well, you know, I always learned that, you know, if I got 100, you can get 50, because you might not give me 50 back. You might not give my
Right.
money back, but at least I still got another 50. So I gave my mother $50. Okay, so time went on. She ain't never mentioned nothing about my $50. So one day I had the gall to ask my mother,
Exactly.
when was she going to pay me my money?
Yeah.
My mother was like, oh, she went and got the hospital bill from when I was born. She went and got how much the babysitter cost, how much my corduroys cost, or my turtleneck sweater, all of this stuff. And
She should have got you the light bill and the phone bill too.
no. But see, that was shared because it was her lights too. It ain't like she just paid for my light, right? We all had lights. But my point is, she was into the thousands, like wasn't even halfway through in terms of what it cost for me to just for me to exist.
Right.
At the state that I was at 10, this is how much she had paid out, and I had the nerve to ask her for her $50.
Right.
Now you know I mumbled in my mind, like, why you just gonna say that you have it? You know, I was mumbling to myself, right? But what my mother taught me with that scolding was that there's a lot more to being an adult than just being able to do what you want to do or stay up however late you want to stay up. You know, because we want to stay up late.
Right.
It's a lot more to being an adult. And do you think that there is enough emphasis placed on how hard you work as a dad? How hard, you know, how tough it may be sometimes for you to get up in the morning and go to a job that you may not want to go to, or when it's 15 below zero outside and you still got to get up. You don't have the luxury of having your job closed today because it's snowing. They get a snow day for school. Right. They just stay home, right? You don't have that luxury. As a dad, do you? And I'm saying dad because I'm taking it like, you know, your image is of a provider and a protector.
Right.
Do you emphasize or do you highlight that at all so both can understand that? Wow, your son could say this is what a man does, and your daughter will look like and say, well, in the future, I need a man that does things like that.
Right. Yeah. I would say I'm big on setting the example for my kids, just for that same reason. I want her to look at me and say, okay, well, whoever I end up with, this is the foundation to at least say, okay, well, if he doesn't have these core qualities, you know, I might have to think about it. And you know, the same thing with my son, to say, okay, you know, when you come a man, you know, there's certain foundations that you need to have. You know, you might like different things than me. That's cool. That's great. That's you being you. But you still need a foundation to just have underneath you to say, okay, well, this is my core. But it's funny that you talk about the whole bill thing, because I know that sentiment in terms of, okay, I'm a parent and I brought you into this world and I'm doing all these things for you, and like I get it, but for me personally, I don't put that on them, because for me it's like they never asked to be here. So for me to say you owe me something seems wrong, because those children were an act of something that two individuals outside their entire existence, you know, pre-existence I should say, made a decision. So at that point, like, you want them to be grateful so they can understand, you know, just that concept of just being grateful of someone doing something for you, and maybe even just showing gratitude by returning favors or whatever. But I don't like the idea of pressing, okay, my life struggles now that you're here is something that you as a child should have to burden at any point.
Mm-hmm. How important, and this is an open question to both of you, how important do you think it is for a child to understand the feeling that each parent has for the other?
Oh, I can't even answer that question.
Listen,
I can't answer that question.
Just I would say in general.
Well, I mean, I've always told Christina, you know, because he was an absent parent. I've always said to her, and she can tell you this herself. Have you spoken to your father? Are you going to speak to your father? I made sure that she knew that she had a father and that she can contact him whenever she wanted to. But he was, I mean, that's why I can't answer the question. He was never there. The most that I did was make sure that she knows that I'm okay with her contacting her father and her getting to know her father.
I'm gonna address that, and I want Kyle to jump in. The reason why I think it's important for a child to know or understand the sentiment between, mother and mom and dad, because even if the mother and father is not together, that child is still a component of each of those people. And if I think it would hurt my daughter to think that me and her mother don't get along, because she cares about both of us. And sometimes it's like, well, do I got to pick a side? You know what I'm saying? Like, do I have to choose between my mother and my father? I mean, they want to, even if we're not together, they still want us to be at least peaceful with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I don't want my mother mad at my father, because my mother be talking shit about my dad. He's my dad. Or my mother say some slick shit about my mother. That's my mother. Like, I don't want it to be like that. And a lot of times kids hear arguments, you know what I'm saying, in the household, and they go to school angry. And they're in school, they're angry because they're preoccupied with some things that they heard or overheard the previous night on the phone. Fuck you, you ain't this, you ain't that.
I didn't have that problem.
Yeah.
But and what happens? They go to school, and now they can't focus on the work, right? Because they have problems at home. And my thing was, I remember sitting my daughter down, me and her mother. It's like, yo, this ain't working out, whatever. And I called my daughter into the room and said, listen, me and your mother. We've been arguing, stuff like that. It's not working out, and we're gonna split. We're gonna break up. And we took a deep breath and was like, okay. So how do you feel? And she was like, well, you breaking up with mommy. You ain't breaking up with me.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, she was 14. I'm like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting that answer. And she was like, okay, like, all right. Could I go back to watching my program? I'm like, and me and her mother looked at each other, was like, yo, are we bugging or what? Like, and then when
she had to have heard everything leading up to that.
For her, it was like, finally y'all can stop arguing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was a relief. But I felt that, for various reasons, me and her mother weren't communicating. You feel me? And when there was a communication, it was tumultuous communication. And I said to myself, nah, it can't be like that, because my daughter still, even though she's 26 years old, still she has to know that me and her mother is all right. For her sake. For nothing else but for her sake. Because it does affect her mood. It does affect her psyche. Where if there's something going on with her, it's like, y'all can't even collectively come together to help me with my issue because y'all ain't speaking. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, at least, y'all could get it together and have a civil conversation. You feel me? So just walking around knowing that, you know what I'm saying, I think makes a world of difference to an adult and to a child. So I was going to ask you that question, like when it comes down to, I don't know if your children have the same mother, different mother, whatever the case may be, but is it important to you for your kids to see those loving moments or those compromises, those things that say, I know mommy could be a little rough sometimes, but whatever, that's
or
your
daddy.
mother, or daddy, right? How do you handle that situation, or do you deal with that situation?
I also believe it's important, and I believe it's important because you don't want to fill your child's head with the fantasy of family and relationship that is kind of like perpetuated in, let's say, like TV or
The Cosby's.
you know what I mean, like
we all know how that turned out.
right. Yeah, so my thing is because they're the same mom. We've been separated for about almost 4 years now, and definitely when we broke the story, to them, my son was done. Like, he was devastated. My daughter was just playing,
Why do you think he was devastated, and what if there was any change in his behavior?
I would say because like he's a pretty loving kid, you know what I mean? So I guess to see two people that he loves not being on one accord is kind of like, wow, like what's going to happen now? Like what our house is going to be like, what's, just the ramifications of just having that happen. So, we had to talk with him, to let him understand, they will always be loved, always be taken care of.
You had to sit down with them as well. You had to sit down with them as well.
What do you mean?
In other words, you didn't just leave. You had to sit down with them and explain to them this is what's going on.
Yeah, like I said, we both, me and their mom, sat both of them down, and we had the discussion as to what was going to happen, what between us, and just gave them the rundown as to how we're looking to transition into this new process for them. Like I said, after a while, that's my son. He had some residuals of, like, wow, what's gonna, that's still what's gonna happen. But
was
like right now,
acting out like you better come get your son.
Thinking back, I don't think there was any acting out per se. I would maybe think it did maybe preoccupy his thoughts to the point where he wasn't as productive as he should be.
In school, or
like in school, maybe even around the house, because he's just so absorbed about this information that that he just received. And in that same instance, like in terms of us, letting him know how me and his mom is now going to communicate, for the most part, our conversations are very, at least cordial, at least, especially when around them. There's no real arguing like that. But we don't hide the fact that we do have disagreements, because I want them to see that two people who, say, have once loved each other, it's not, maybe still do, but we just don't have the attraction. You know what I mean? Like that's that idea.
You can communicate, but you don't have the attraction.
Right. That's no longer a part of the equation.
And it's also teaching them at the end of the day, as long as you have communication,
right,
you can have a relationship.
Right. So they see us maybe every once in a while have our disagreements. I would say.
Do they ever see you laugh?
Absolutely.
Not as individuals, among like you and her.
Yeah, like let's say we'll have conversations about something that they might have done, and you're like seriously, what would you think, family time? But then there's also the aspect of when maybe one does something that's not, to our liking, that we both come together and then it's like,
you're
okay,
on the same accord.
Like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing.
I would tell my daughter's mother that no matter what, we have to be on the same accord. And there's been some things where her approach to things I really didn't agree with, but I had to roll with it, because I never wanted our daughter to think that I can play one parent for the next.
Yeah, that's
you know what I'm saying? Because kids,
my son is he's definitely has showed that mind state. That's it from early. That okay, I know Dad thinks a certain way, so I can do things.
Kids can be quite manipulative, and I've said this
very much so.
Sorry, mommy, but I gotta keep it. I gotta keep it a buck. I had said a while back that my mother taught me how to lie. and
the telephone calls.
Yeah, and people were like, "Oh, you shouldn't
too.
say that. You shouldn't say that." I said, "Listen, for a lot of you younger people, caller ID wasn't always around.
Nope.
We were the caller ID. If it was someone that my mother didn't want to talk to, and the phone rang, you know the routine.
Mm-hmm. My mother did it constantly.
If that's so and so, right? I ain't here, right? If someone's knocking on the door, look through the peephole first. If that's such and such, I ain't here. Me being a little kid, sometimes I said, my mother told me to tell you she's not here. My mother told me to tell you she's not here.
I can never do that. I can never do that. If my mother said to me to say that she's not home, and I said it that way, there was hell to pay.
How would it go? Like, what would the conversation be like?
Okay,
in prepping you.
The phone would ring. If it's Auntie Hilda, I'm not home. Pick up the phone.
But that's her sister.
No.
Oh, okay.
I just called her.
Oh,
I called
okay,
her.
okay,
I called
okay.
her. No, shit, I'm not home. If it's I'm not home. Such and such. That's what she would do.
Okay.
But
Yeah, that's similar. It's like, and the crazy part about it is, me as like an individual, I'm like, I don't feel right about this. Like, let's line. So
But you know,
as
I
I got,
did it to my daughter too.
yeah,
I kid you not. Like, wow.
But see,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Inadvertently, what was done to us, right, was we were taught how to avoid, right, certain things, and then we take that, right, and we apply that practice of avoidance in other areas. You know what I'm saying? We use it for our own benefit. Like, you taught me basically that it's okay because you don't feel like being bothered, right? For us to tell your friends, your family, your titi, your uncle, whoever, you ain't here, but you in the room smoking a cigarette. But you told me to say that they not home. You know what I'm saying? Bill collectors. You know what I'm saying? Back in the days, like I said, we was to call ID, answer the phone. No, nobody here by that name. You, mommy, I'm sorry, but you taught me how to be evasive. You taught me how to manipulate. You know what I'm saying? A lot of different people that were seemingly cool with you, because I would see them come over and you would talk to them, and everything was friendly. It wasn't no beef.
Right.
You just didn't feel like being bothered.
yeah. As I said, I kind of developed as just watching like TV and stuff like that. So, my answer would always be the call. Is Mrs. Douglas there or whatever, and I would be like, oh, she's unavailable at the moment. Can I take a message? I'm not lying, because she's not available to take your call because she feels that she's not ready for your phone call. So,
But that's how I answer the phone in the office.
right. But that's what I'm
That's
saying.
literally how I answer. He's not available at the moment. Would you like to leave a
But,
message?
But he's sitting right
but in
next to you.
doing that, you technically not lying, because you didn't say like they're not here. No,
But see,
they're
now-
unavailable.
But you see how you've learned to use the English language to be
Facts.
to be
Facts.
to be
Unavailable.
evasive and unavailable, and see the older you've gotten creative with it.
Yeah.
So now imagine this, right? The things that we've learned, we flipped it and added our little stuff, took some other stuff away, whatever case may be, changed the words up, and it's all about getting our way, or getting in whatever we may desire at that particular point. And we could desire just complete solitude. Like, we don't have a problem with anyone, but I'm reading my book. And I just want to read my book. I don't want to talk on the phone with you. You don't know how to hang up. And people will make crazy excuses. Oh, boy, I got this water boiling. Let me call you back. All these kind of things. But we learned it from, things that we either were taught or instructed to do, or things that we saw.
And we taught it to our kids.
Exactly.
And we taught it to our kids. Because
Exactly.
I told my daughter 1,000 times. And we have caller ID. Oh, that's Todd. Honey, just tell Todd I'm not here. Tell him to shower.
Anything, except I could hear her whispering in the back. But my thing is, right, in the things that, because we're gonna get to the bad kids. I'm taking it that the three of us, at least here, are the best parents that we knew how to be. If there was something that wasn't done, it wasn't done out of maliciousness. It was done because we didn't know any better, or we didn't know another method. You know what I'm saying, in terms of parenting, because parenting never stops, by the way.
Right.
It gets to a point where
Does it?
no, it never stops, because at a particular point.
But I'm tired.
Even you're tired now. You're tired now, but it's going to get to a point to where our children won't be children, and they don't necessarily need us, but we will need them, because we will still. Once you're a parent, you still have that need to be wanted, desired, or that importance. You want to have that particular relevance in your child's, or your offspring's life, because it's your job.
Definitely.
It's our job to still guide them.
Right.
It doesn't make a difference. You could be 60 years old. If your mother is still alive or your dad is still alive, listen, you still need some type of guidance. They still got 20-something years on you.
Right.
They got 20 years before you was here. You feel me? And there's nothing like sitting down listening to an older person tell you about when they lived in a particular era. Because we got it good now. You know, it's not anywhere near like it was in the 50s and the 60s and so on and so forth. We got it good now.
That's relative, though.
Well, it's.
I mean, you say we've got it good, but in the 50s and the 60s, you know, you can do something and it's not all over social media.
Well,
So it's relative.
okay, look, you can do something and it's not all over social media, but because it wasn't all over social media, you would continue to do it, right? And
They continue to do it now.
But what I'm saying is, okay, let's just say, for instance, all right, they got cameras everywhere, right? So I remember somebody said, I saw a meme, and they said, I remember back in the days, you know, I could go in the store with $1 and I could come out with this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And they said now they got all these goddamn cameras, right?
Yeah.
So my thing is, but so certain things that that weren't in existence in say 1980, 85, whatever case maybe when we were younger, because we got away with it, we would continue it. And even though it was a bad habit, right, or something, you know, negative, we would still do it because we couldn't get caught. So it made it embedded probably even deeper because it's like
You got comfortable with it.
exactly. Where now, oh hell no, it's a camera over there, a camera over there. You know, shit. It's a whole bunch of shit I probably would take. You know what I'm saying? But fuck that. You won't have me on fucking World Star. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Radio show host gets busted taking such and such and such. You know, it's been a few times. I'm like, this is way too fucking much. I should take this shit. Hell no.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Hell no, because, you know, I'm not even going to lie and say, oh, my morals tell me. Hell no. Sometimes we feel like they charging so much, I should take this shit. You know, you're trying to rob people with these high-ass prices. But let me get back on subject.
Mm-hmm.
What I was saying is, Kyle, specifically, when you think about kids that are so-called bad, when I say, you know, I'm using it just to put emphasis on a kid that's out there knowing right from wrong, and they still do wrong anyway. Some kids that might join gangs and things of that nature. Not every person that's in a gang comes from a broken home. You know,
Right.
what component do you think is missing from the seemingly loving home that prompts a kid to get out there and get in the mix with all this negativity?
Excitement.
Yeah.
Is
I said there's the excitement, the intrigue about it.
Uh-huh.
I would say there's also, I guess, let's say just them being individuals, and then, like I said, one of the big things like I'm really cautious about nowadays, in terms of like presenting to my kids, is the notion that your feelings take precedence over anything else. So like nowadays is like, you know, if you feel like doing something, they'll package it as, oh, that's you being you, so you should do it. But back in our, you know, when I was growing up, one of the key factors of parenting, like from early, was discipline. And that's like a forgotten word nowadays, unless you're talking about dieting, or, you know, you're part of the military. Like the idea of just being disciplined to where you might feel a certain way, but you understand that your feeling is secondary to accomplishing whatever the goal is, because that's more important. So that's, I would say, discipline definitely is a key factor in all this, because it's not promoted the same way it used to be.
Sandy, let me ask you a question. When you hear the words discipline and punishment, in your mind, are they both the same? Are they is one necessary for the other? Like,
No, discipline, you have a certain way of doing things. So,
Right.
you know, you have to be in the house at a certain time. There's a discipline to that. The punishment comes when you decide that, you know, 11 o'clock is not late enough and you come in at 11:30. Okay, so now you get punishment.
as far as I know, discipline is showing restraint, right?
Big time.
They'll say self-discipline. You want to do X, Y, Z, have some self-discipline. I want to smoke a cigarette, have some self-discipline. I want to eat this pack of donuts, have some self-discipline. Stick to your diet. It's showing restraint. If you discipline a child, you actually show them that if you do this, this is the probable negative result.
Right.
And so you should.
That's punishment.
And you should.
The punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the punishment is
The negative result.
that's the punishment. I'm saying, but sometimes the punishment comes from the parent, not from the result. When my daughter was younger, I would tell her, "Don't play in the street. Don't play in the street. I don't want you to fear me. I want you to fear
the
getting your
street,
ass
yeah.
hit by the car." Because when I'm not around, she could be like, "Well, my father ain't around. He ain't gonna know." But I'm not to be feared. Fear the like Sandy just said. Fear the end result of you not adhering to what I'm telling you to do. And I will always break it down to her. If I say, "Don't do this, don't do that," it's not because I want to punish you or limit you or hinder your progress or whatever kids be saying. It's because danger is more likely to happen in this situation than in another situation.
Right.
It still danger may happen, but I need you to understand. And one day I said something to my daughter, and I explained to her about why I felt uncomfortable about her going to a particular party. And she was like, "Oh, but Daddy, everybody's going, okay, cool." And something happened at that party, and she called me, and I was able to come right there and pick her up. And she's like, "Daddy, now I understand."
Right.
And from then on, and she was about 17, 18 years old, from then on, if she heard about something that was going on, she would hit me up and be like, "Daddy, what you know about so-and-so and so?" Nah, because that's right in the middle of South Side
Right.
and North Side, and they beefing right now, and you don't want to be
Right.
any place where both people might be. That's not where you want to be. And she'll call her friends back and be like, either we go someplace else, or I'm just going to chill at home.
Yeah.
And like maybe out of 6 times that she asked me that question, 4 times something negative happened. So it got to a point where even her friend would be like, "Ask your dad if it's cool to go to this particular place."
Right.
You feel me? She learned a lesson from seeing something horrific, and then she took my word from it from there on. But now, when you and this is directly towards Sandy, when you feel as though a child, I'm not necessarily saying yours, a child is not listening. They're not. It's like they heard you, but they're not listening. What is that block that they have?
I don't know what the block is. The best answer I can give you is they don't think you know what the hell you're talking about.
Even if you break it down to them?
I couldn't even tell you about that one. That I have no opinion about that because you're sitting there telling them if you cross the street and the bus is coming and the light is green for them and you cross the street, you're going to get hit by the bus.
But mommy, I crossed it different than what you used to cross it back in the days. That's what it seemed like that's what they're saying.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what? And I'm
crossed it
ready to
different.
say, well then cross the street. I'll meet you at the hospital.
Now, but see, now the question also is right because sometimes
If you're that kind of kid.
sometimes when we've crossed the street, right, we've grabbed our kids and come on, but the light, bring your ass on.
I've done that. Oh, I've definitely done that.
So when we tell them don't do X, and I'm just using that as an analogy. When we tell them don't do X, Y, Z, and their mind's like, but you do the same shit you telling me not to do. So do we send mixed messages?
It's definitely mixed messages. I said one thing that, as you touched on, that I have had discussions with people about in just terms of raising children. I'm a firm believer that there's different stages in which your child should see you. And I think the early stages, I believe that your children should fear you. I think your children should fear you until they get to the point that they respect you. Because once they respect you, they'll understand the information that you're giving them is valid information and can use it a certain way. Now, and the reason why I say that also is because they say that consequence in terms of the area of the brain that deals with consequence, is one of the last things that develop in children. And they said, like, especially for males, they said that I can't remember what the area is, but
Frontal lobe.
yeah,
It's called hard-headed.
that like you don't really get
called
that
hard-headed.
area of the brain developed into your early to mid 20s. So
Oh, damn.
so understanding
You know, I'm
that,
going to Google that later.
right? You know what I'm saying? Understanding, like having that understanding, it was like, okay, well, when I tell my child something, unless possibly they physically go through the experience to understand, okay, this is the action and this is the result of that action. Just verbally communicating it to them, it's not going to compute.
And some people kids have to experience it on their own anyway, in order to get an idea of, what it is.
Why can't we
Because-
just take your word for it?
No,
but-
you don't take people's words for it. Why should they?
Even
Well, let me think. Have I ever taken? No, there's some things I've taken my mother's word for it because and I say my mother because I didn't have a father growing up. I had a stepfather, and my grandfather was very present in my life growing up. But the age gap, the age difference, and him being super old school, and that was a whole different story. But I've taken people's word for it, and I've like say, well, they said, listen, that's not something that you want to do. Just trust me. Oh, okay. Because if you ain't messing with it, and I respect you, then I ain't messing with it either.
Yeah, but you also have those inquisitive people, those nosy people, I wouldn't mess with it. Oh,
Yeah.
you wouldn't mess with it, but I'll mess with it.
Oh, like
Let's see what happens.
that's
Right?
my daughter. She's a habitual line stepper. Like seriously,
how old is she?
I said she just turned 7, and this is like habitual with it. Don't do that, and she will ease over to it.
The easiest way to get her to do something is tell her not to.
Okay,
or
really?
or not
Really?
no well
I'm
not
just saying.
it's not really, I guess not to toot out, but don't put it as such a big thing, because when you make it a big thing, like, oh no, you can't do this, whatever, it piques their interest. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
but if
yeah.
it's like, you really shouldn't do that. But
So-
whatever, it seems like it doesn't, gravitate them to the thing as much.
You just made me think of something. Are there, and I want people to disassociate this with sex. Are there is there such thing as something being taboo, right? And when it comes to children, in terms of we make things taboo, and subsequently it becomes attractive because we've made it out to be something so not to do
Right.
that they want to see, why should I so not do it?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it definitely. I with I guess coming up, my mother was very open with me about things. And she was quick to explain things. Like, I remember one time we was watching movies at the friend's house, whatever, and there was a scene, with nudity in it.
Oh,
Cover
jump
your
right
eyes,
in-
cover
yeah,
your eyes.
That's the thing. Most parents is like, oh, cover your eyes.
That's what I did.
Nope. She watched me watch, and then when I was like, kind of, she explained to me like, oh, that's so and so, blah blah blah, boom. And then now she's seen that was the content of the movie. She then shifted me to be like, oh, you guys go play in the room, but she never made it such a big thing. So I wasn't intrigued by it. Like, oh wow, I saw X, Y, and Z, and. I remember
I was trying to watch titties on W.
like, and same thing. Like my mom.
So was Slim.
Yeah, my mom bought me. Yeah, like to just show you, like my mom bought me a gun magazine at 9 because I was like, oh, the gun. So she bought it to me, and I looked through it. But while I'm looking through it, she's explaining, okay, this whatever. But you understand, guns are dangerous. This is that, whatever. So my experiences just with like coming up with things and just in the world and society is different because my mother was so open with me and having these conversations and not sugarcoating or hiding them because it, making it taboo, and so to speak.
What
Well,
kind?
not my mother.
Saying, well, what kind of conversation, or if there was a conversation concerning drugs? with your daughter? Was there a conversation?
Don't do it.
Okay, but then you know how kids are. Why?
No, because I said so. Don't do it.
Okay.
That was my conversation.
Okay, okay, because here's my thing. A lot of us grew up in a drug culture.
Right.
And let me be specific. Alcohol is a drug because a drug is identified or classified as any mind or mood altering substance.
Yeah, but whenever I've told people that I don't do drugs, I say I don't do drugs except alcohol.
And see, but see, now you're being honest. But see,
I've always said that.
Right.
Because alcohol is a drug.
Yeah.
But see, when we think about drugs, we think about illegal drugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And now we have the epidemic with the opioids that are prescribed. So a lot of young people think that it's cough syrup. You get it from a doctor, not some dude on the street. So it's cool. It's regulated, or not regulated, but you know, it's you never get a bad batch. You feel me? Because it's always the same thing. It's big palm. That's what they do. So because we're in a drug culture, right? Forget about the weed thing, because I have a whole different perspective on that. But you know, Percocets. It's not even the cocaine, because we got new drugs now for the younger, for like our children. It's new drugs. It's the Percocets. It's the ecstasy, all these other hallucinogenic drugs and stuff like that that are in pill form that they don't see. Well, I'm not shooting it. I'm not sniffing. I'm taking it. You know, whatever case may be. Same way you take an Advil. Same way you
Right.
take a Motrin. Same way you take this. I'm taking this, right? And
But it's not the same.
But it's not the same. But how do you?
See, when we take it,
it depends on how you look at it.
Oh, that's true.
Because
But
your headache to one could be depression for another. So it's a symptom that you're just taking something.
But they're not
to
taking
resolve.
it because they're depressed. They're taking it because it's the thing to do. It's the feeling that they want to get from it. When we
Right.
take an Advil or Tylenol, we have a damn headache.
Can their home life be so stressful from the things that they see? Can they have been, as young women specifically, abused by a family member or close friend, and they're dealing with this thing that being sober is painful for them because of the things that they've been through, and now they
But
turn
that's
to
just
something
one
to
group
escape.
of people.
But-
That's just one group
could
of people.
could
You
it
have
be
people that
could it be a large group of people where we underestimate
we don't know
the
that.
popularity? I mean, not the popularity, the populace of the group. Because every time
Possible.
you speak to people about molestation, right? They will say, when I say they, mean like polls and things of that nature, like 1 in every 5 women has been molested, right? That's a lot of women. You feel me? That's a lot of women.
Right.
So now, when you talk about potential, not drug users, drug abusers, right? And we think, well, I'm a loving parent. I'm this. I care for my child, and so and so and so. But they've dealt with this trauma that some of us don't even know about. And the way that they deal with it is they medicate. You know, they medicate. I've met and spoke with a lot of women that have been abused, and it led them to drugs because they have this painful memory that sits. And in order for them to cope with that, to like zone out, right, they need to get high. Whether it's weed, whether it's coke, whether it's, and it's predominantly alcohol. They need to just zone out because it makes them forget temporarily. And as soon as the sobriety comes and they start to remember again, they need to zone out again. And they become addicts. But they're not addicts just because they want to party and have fun. No, that's not it. They're trying to forget some shit. And we as society, we label them, oh, you junkie. Oh, you a druggie. Oh, you. But there's underlying shit that goes on with a lot of kids that we don't really know about.
Well, sometimes they don't even know about it either.
Well,
They don't realize.
understand.
Yeah, they don't realize what it is, why it is that they're doing it. Or
I brought this up because I had said something about bad kids earlier, and you said because people you don't really know what has happened, right? You had mentioned ADD or ADHD.
ADHD. I mentioned that at home.
Can you elaborate on that based upon the conversation we had prior?
Well, you said what is bad kids or something like that. You said, and I said, well, some people think that kids that have ADHD are bad kids. Back when ADHD first started, We didn't hear anything about it. We just knew that, there were kids that, you had to restrain in school, and they, were hyperactive, and they were this and that and the other. And come to find out later on, with the testing, I guess, that they do and everything, there are kids with ADHD. So, no, they're not bad kids. They just have, a chemical imbalance, I guess.
Okay.
Is that the right word?
I guess it. There's things definitely about that, because I have some experience with that in terms.
I have
of,
no experience. I just know.
There's definitely levels to it.
Right,
right?
I know a kid with ADHD.
Where does your experience come from first?
From, I guess, my son. Let's say he's been diagnosed. And through my studies, because I'm more of a naturalist. I like holistic remedies or whatever. But just through my studies, there's one thing that at one point in time we had success with, which was giving them magnesium. Now, magnesium is something that you can find in all foods, right? But when you do the research on magnesium, to understand that magnesium is important in early age because it helps with neurological and brain development, right? So then you go and you look at your Flintstone vitamins and all these vitamins and realize, okay, if it's so important, why isn't it in none of the major brand vitamins, right? So my thing is, with ADHD, and like I said, there's definitely levels, but we need to get a better understanding of how we're getting to the point where these kids are having ADHD. Are we doing all the things correct for them in the beginning? That
Nutrition.
Yeah. A lot of, they say most of it is black minority children that's coming up with it. What are the possibilities is that because of their environment, they're coming up in poor and low income families that's looking, okay, my child's hungry, and the only thing I can do is go to, McDonald's and get the two-for meal, and I'm filling the whole family, with two-for meals, which has no particular nutritional value for them. Well, and
it just fills their bellies. That's
right.
all it does.
I want to say something.
And at the end of the day, that's what you want to do. And that's what they want to do. Is fill the baby's bellies.
I want to inject something, because if you look at statistically, the poorest of the poor are not necessarily people of color, right? The people that may live off of oodles or noodles aren't necessarily people of color.
But he didn't say that.
No, but what I'm saying is, we're saying in terms of
the diagnosis. I was saying diagnosis for ADHD, right?
The ADHD, and they will say, well, it's predominantly young black boys, right? That they will say, well, this is your diagnosis. This is what it is. I read somewhere, and I can't, excuse me for not being able to provide the source of information, but I read somewhere that doctors were paid or influenced, donations, however they want to call it,
they want to swing.
to diagnose particular children as having a condition. And there was a study done where they took perfectly normal kids and had them, I guess, interviewed or whatever they want to call by doctors, clinical psychologists.
Right.
And they were diagnosed as having some type of disorder, that they needed some type of medication.
Right.
Because, like you just said, years ago, there was no ADHD. It was called Sit Your Ass Down.
Yeah, it was. It was Sit Your Ass Down.
Now,
what is wrong with you?
Now, what has
Basically.
happened? What has happened, especially with young boys and the emergence of testosterone, right, at a certain age during puberty, we used to have recess, right, in school.
Right.
I don't even know if they have recess anymore. Right, because I don't see. I sometimes I go past elementary schools at different times. I don't.
Well, they
see
have lunchtime.
But
yeah, they sit down at
And
lunch
then- no,
and they
and-
have to
no,
scoff
no.
down food
But
in
that's
20
not-
minutes.
And no, but in the summertime they have lunchtime and they get to go out into the yard.
But when do they
Not
eat?
all-
But
not
when do
all
they
schools
eat?
let 'em
They eat and they run out into the yard.
But see, we had recess, which was a different thing than lunch. And with our recess, okay, number one, you could be a highly intelligent person and the schoolwork bores you.
Right.
Because, you sitting down. If I play chess, you sitting down asking me to play checkers. I'm bored. I need something more challenging. It's not holding my attention.
Right.
And a lot of kids have that issue where it's not holding their attention. It's just sublime fucking, this is bullshit as far as they're concerned, right?
Right.
So therefore they're restless.
Right.
Give them something challenging. Kids are far more intelligent than what society in general gives them credit for.
Right.
Give them something challenging. There's nothing that challenges them, right? As young boys, we are filled with testosterone, energy, aggression. We need to run.
Right.
You know, we get outside, just run. We ain't doing nothing but just running, right? Burn off the energy. You go back in school. You've been out running, right?
Right.
So now you can focus on your work.
Right.
Prior to that, you had this energy stored up, right? And you restless.
Right, you're restless.
So now
you're
they're
jittery.
saying you have attention deficit disorder,
Right.
right? Because you can't concentrate on the teacher. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Here's a,
And-
But is that only for boys? Because you're
Well,
referring
I could-
only
but-
to
but-
boys.
Because I could only identify what it is to be a boy. I don't know what it's like for y'all as women. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Have you ever had a favorite teacher?
absolutely.
Okay, Sandy, have you ever had? Let me switch the camera. I'm sorry. Have you ever had a favorite teacher?
I don't remember any favorite teachers. I did have one in college though.
Okay, a favorite professor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask you why he was your favorite.
What makes you think it was a he? It was
Good.
a she.
Yeah, okay. Just fix that shit up real good. But my point is, let me ask you, what made her your favorite professor?
Because she took the time to sit back and talk to me. She would be late for her next class because she's talking to us generally. She'd have to apologize to her. She'd be late to our class because the class before her kept her attention. She'd invite me to her office because I thought about you and I have some things for you I need to give you.
Mm.
And she gave me an A.
Now, do you think that
That'll help, right?
that
helps.
do you think that approach or that attention, right? This is at a collegiate level.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that thought and that approach towards children, right,
It would work.
would show that I'm not hard on you because I'm hard on you. I'm hard because I care. Do you think that a lot of times children don't see enough adults that really care about them? Not obligated. Like you say, you never wanted your children to feel like they were burdened.
Well, it depends. It depends on the environment that your kids are in. See,
Right.
you said, we know that our kids maybe
Mm-hmm.
feel that we're obligated to do certain things for them. But to have another person, the village, I didn't have a village for my daughter, so the village to have that attention to the child, my child in this case,
Right.
it would work. Like Christina had Colin. Colin was her godfather, is her godfather, and he, whenever Christina had an issue, whenever my daughter had an issue, okay, look, I can't do it. She's not listening to me, and I would bring her to him. And, she would straighten out for a little while, and then she'd forget everything that he said to her.
What do you think she would forget it or just ignore it? Because
I don't think she ignored it. I really can't say that she ignored it. I can say that enough time passed that whatever consequence she had to deal with is no longer a fear for her.
Mm.
I can say it that way.
Or
Question.
I'd say another aspect of it could have been just her prioritizing the information
Yeah.
differently, because now through her experiences she understands, okay, well, what was told to her is more important.
You know how I describe it? It's like you almost fell off of a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And you see moves and people holding onto the cliff, and you're scared to death, and they're pulling you up, and you finally get up. Now you won't come near a cliff for a good little while, and then somebody asks you to go somewhere, and you go, and you completely forget about the cliff.
You forgot the fear.
Yeah.
Now,
Not that you forgot it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do it differently next time.
no, but here's I want to parallel this, right? Because I'm pretty much sure anybody that drinks has probably had this particular feeling. Tongue kissing the toilet bowl. Drank too much. Drank the wrong
I
thing.
have never tongue kissed a toilet bowl.
You know what I'm saying.
I did sleep with a toilet bowl once, though.
Right.
We were very good friends.
Right. Feeling that, oh, I'm never drinking again. Oh, my God. Right. Because in that state, you feel so horrible because you drank too much of, whatever, you mixed drink, whatever you did, you just was horrible. Your stomach was throwing up your guts and you just swore on everything that you love. Never again. And as soon as that feeling of despair and fucking anguish goes away, I know what I did wrong. I shouldn't have mixed Jack Daniels with
Mixed the light in the
Hennessy.
dark.
With Hennessy. So I know I could drink Jack Daniels by itself.
Or can't, you know what it was? It was the brown liquor. The brown
Yeah.
liquor did it.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not going to drink the brown liquor no
Yep.
more.
You know what?
Until that white liquor does the same thing to you.
I should have used 7-Up instead of Coca-Cola. That's what. And what I'm saying is,
Kids, they justify it. They justify
and we rationalize.
Yeah, you definitely rationalize it.
Because someone said to me before, right? And this is some real shit. Someone said to me in terms of addiction or compulsion, right? Which sometimes could be synonymous. They said your addiction or your compulsion is just as smart as you are. Let's just say you have a master's degree. You have a doctorate. So does your addiction. So does your compulsion. So if you, as a doctor of whatever, you have a master, you have an MSW and whatever case may be, the counterpoint to your rationale is just as smart as you. So when you're saying, well, you know what? Studies say such and such and such. Your addiction or compulsion master's degree is saying, how can you trust studies? You feel me? So what happens is, as kids grow and they learn, they become more clever, more manipulative. Listen, for us,
They learn from us.
we live in we live in New York. The streets is a teacher. Your ass going, listen, all you got to do is just go outside 5 days in a row. Your ass going to learn today.
Right.
You're going to learn something
right.
about life. Just in the subway system, whatever. You're going to learn today. Every day I read about, I just read in the paper about a 60-year-old woman was walking down the street in the Bronx, and some dude just walked up on her and stabbed her 3 times for no goddamn reason. Now, I would show
He's got ADHD.
I would show my daughter and be like, look, you see this here? Chick walked down the block, minding her business. Dude just walked up on her and stabbed her. Because I used to have my daughter be like, listen, pay attention. Stop walking around like you in Never Land.
I'm
And your
51 years
phone
old
and-
and don't pay attention.
I'd be like, pay attention. I would tell my daughter, stop being so damn friendly with people you don't know. Stop.
I just got yelled at about
Stop. Because people will take friendliness in terms of you being gullible and vulnerable. That's how people get jostled. Right? They get jostled because, excuse me, ma'am, you want to buy some jewelry? What you got? Well, here, check this out. Right? And they show you the chain, right? They say, how much you want? How much you got? Because they want a fraction less than what you got. If you got 50, they want 40. Leave you with a little something, right? But you can't be hustled unless you're trying to get over yourself. Unless you think, listen, I go to Best Buy. I want a flat screen, go to Best Buy. Unless I got a plug that I know works at Best Buy. You feel me?
Right.
And the only way I could get caught with that is if I'm trying to get over. Because my maliciousness, my greed got me caught up where I was overlooking all signs and symbols and I got snagged. What I don't want is my daughter to get out there and be like oblivious to everything going on around her. You feel me? Where she doesn't pay attention to this and she's just in her own world living free. No, you better pay attention. Understand that dude got on a leather jacket and it's 80 degrees. Either he's crazy or he got something up under his coat. Like,
Right.
pay attention.
Right.
Because paying attention can save your life. You feel me? And no, you did not get yelled at. Paying attention can save your life.
Yes, I did.
And I'm a protector, so when I see certain things,
And that's why
I
I
have
got yelled at.
I have an overwhelming need to protect because I see these things happening every day. Now, here's the question.
I'm that child that we were talking about. No,
it was just a stern talking to.
No, but here's the question: how protective are you over your children? Why? No, my daughter just texts me. Oh no! Look what she said. No, my daughter just text me. It made Sandy bust our leather.
Yeah.
That is ain't that something? We just spoke about that earlier, right? So now, wow, we just spoke about that. How overprotective or protective are you over your children?
Can I just interject really quick? That's a stupid question.
Why is it a stupid question?
Because we are all protective of our children.
I said overprotective. I said over.
We are overprotective. Go ahead, answer the question. Tell him that's a stupid question.
Because when I say overprotective, because you could be smothering. You could be smothering.
But that's not what you said.
I said how overprotective, because being overprotective, right, does not allow them.
Yeah, it doesn't allow for development.
Development, because you take care of everything.
Right.
If all my daughter's bills, Daddy, I got an overdraft. Don't worry, I got you, baby girl. I'm paying this, right? Daddy, I got a speeding ticket. Don't worry, I got you, baby girl. She has no reason to not continually do the dumb shit that she always done to get what she's got.
Well, you're going to answer the question, but I will tell you that, yes, I have done that, which is probably why I'm having the issues that I'm having with Christina now. Well, look, I'm going to take care of this, but this is what's going to happen next time. And next time it happens,
you take care of it. Exactly. So we enable our children.
We do.
Out of love.
But you answer the question. How overprotective are you over your children?
I personally wouldn't say
I can't stand you.
I'm overprotective. I would say I'm more protective of things and situations that might actually cause immediate physical harm. You know, my daughter's, she can be active and be wanting to jump on everything. I'm like, okay, stop jumping on the couch. We have shelves that are 2 inches from your head. Stop jumping on the couch. You know, so stuff like that I'm protective about. Injury, right. But I'm all about having my children fall. Like,
wow,
I'm all about it because they need to learn how to get up.
You know,
and I'm there.
And when you get up,
and when you get up, understand I'm there to help you when you get up, to then learn from the situation and put any help into getting you right now, and then understand in the future. Okay,
is fall synonymous with fail?
Yes, fall, fail. They need all of that in their life.
Do you think your son or your daughter needs to have a failed relationship? Either or. In order to understand what relationships are about.
I don't know if I would say need. Because particularly for me, I've learned from just seeing other people's experiences. Like you talked about the whole drunken thing.
Yeah.
I drink, you know. I can.
Do you?
Yeah. I can throw it down.
You want a cocktail?
It's you know.
Oh,
but they say
she said you want a cocktail.
The thing, like,
you want a hot toddy?
The way I explain it to the way my Trini is set up.
I like the way you say hot toddy, by the way.
Yeah, I was telling him the way come on, my father's from Trinidad, so I tell him the way my Trini's set up. Like,
you're Trini?
My father's from
from a two country.
Trinidad. Why did you say that?
No, because you're from
Why did you say
No, you're
that?
from a two country, Trinidad Tobago.
Oh, yes. Well, my father is. My father is.
All
so.
Right. Oh, your mother's from the South?
Yeah, my mother's from the South and some other Caribbean. Like, my great grands is from Bermuda, so I have that side from my mother, Bermuda, and African American than mine.
That's gonna segue into my next question from you. But
Okay.
continue with this one here.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, what was I saying now?
First I get
threw me off.
scolded and then I get hit.
Oh, stop! You making me out to be abusive
You are. You're
co-host.
really abusive.
This is her show. I'm the co-host.
Wow.
You were talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I tell him, I was like, I don't tell you where my train's set up. I've never been drunk a day in my life. I've drank, but I've never been drunk to the point where I'm hugging the toilet bowl. I need people to help me. But I have seen my friends do it, and I'm like, there is no way in hell I want to get to a point where I'm so out of it, I have no clue as to what's going on to me. You know, just going around my scenario.
That's
So
discipline. That's
Right.
discipline. You've disciplined yourself to say, this drink here is going to be my last.
right.
Yeah,
Right, I
I
get
never
that
had
part.
that type of discipline.
Me neither.
Well,
And that's
But I said
that's Neevah.
Yeah.
but I say we're coming up. I say with my parenting, I say having that West Indian religious influence. Father, my mother's family is very religious, so I was getting disciplined from early. Went to private school, so the religious aspect of my development was just that. It's very structured, so you kind of get that discipline. You know, I was getting it from both sides.
Now, you touched on religious aspect. How different are you, or how similar are you from your parents?
At this point,
Yes.
I am nothing like my parents
Well,
because
do you have siblings?
yes, all half.
Okay.
Half.
From
But
from mother or from
Father.
brother? Okay. Now from
How different are you from them?
yeah. Ooh, go ahead. What's
Um,
go ahead. What's your interviewing
of
skills?
the two, I would say of the two that I've actually lived with, we definitely do have our differences. The two right before me are have the same mother. One, the older one, was more of the street guy, and the younger one was more of the book smarts guy.
So you said the older one
The older one
was
yeah,
more of the street guy.
the street
and
guy, the hustler, whatever, and the
So
younger
he was
one.
the bad guy. He was the subject,
The rebel,
the rebel, the
black sheep of the family. What'd you say?
Somewhat. Well, in
Wait,
my,
okay.
my father's.
Was he the bad?
See,
No. Here's the question: how do you see yourself in relation to your siblings? Because you said, well, the book guy, right? The street guy, right? How would you? Are you a composite of both, or like what are you in comparison to them? And this is all related to as a child growing up, what
right.
your influences are.
I would say because like I said I didn't start living with them until I was, I think, already a teenager. I was like during high school. So my friends had a lot more influence on my my upbringing. But for me, I'm a mixture of all of it. I never did any of the hustling stuff, but I knew hustlers, and I knew from them certain things about hustling. It was funny because just last night I was having a conversation with somebody, and it was a group of us, and it was like a friend of mine spoke to this girl who he knew was from the hood, or whatever, and she was like, yeah, you was probably one of those girls that grew up walking around with the razors in their mouth, and she was like, no. I was like, actually no, that was me. And then
You carried the gem star in your mouth?
well, I'm not as good as the
okay, I'm Puerto Rican and can't do that. Okay.
yeah. You see, but here's the thing. I'm inquisitive, so I saw people do it and then wanted to understand how they did it. So I learned how to do it.
Now, I know how to do it. Like,
But
I've done it.
How would I say? I can't do the double edge. I can only do the single edge.
I can do the thing like the gem. That's what's gem star.
Yeah, so because I've seen a video of a girl do the double edge and she's juggling in her mouth, and I'm like, whoa, she had a touch.
Actually, the saliva, like
Right,
it softens
your mouth, so
Yeah.
you won't have to.
You
And
don't-
I
you
guess
won't
if
get
you're
cut.
nervous, you won't be able to do it.
Yeah, you won't get cut.
Right.
Because if you're nervous, you
Yeah, you
tend
won't
to
get cut. But
lose
no, I know that I could carry 2 razors in my arm.
Right. So
one on each side.
And the funny
That
thing
was
about it,
something I
like
didn't need to
literally
know.
after that conversation, literally like maybe one topic later, I was just telling someone, I was like in the conversation was saying that I was an alto in the choir that I used to sing.
Oh, me too!
So it was like, all right, yeah, I just went from telling you that I was used to carry razors in my mouth to the point that now I'm talking about me singing in the choir.
Right,
That's
yeah.
a duality. That's multifaceted.
Right.
So basically, you could have gone to you actually walked a line, and you stayed in that line because you could have been the bad kids the subject of this.
Yes. That we are talking about.
Right.
That we're
So that's
talking
it.
about, or you could have been, the square, which is not a bad thing. It just happens to be
It's
a
hip.
word.
It's hip to be a square.
Yeah.
Right now.
But what made you not a bad kid when you had all the influences to be so?
I said part of it was
And you from Queens too. That's
South Side.
South side. We outside.
Yeah.
Brooklyn.
Like I said, it was.
in the building.
It was kind of part of. It's like part of what I was talking about, like as I'm having the religious background, my mother and father, whatever. But it also was that fear of my father. Growing up to be like, yo, I am not going to cross this dude because I know, I fear the possibility.
The wrath that's coming.
You know what I mean?
Well, I had a fear of my mother.
Well, now let me ask you a question, right? For lack of better terms, fear. We fear the consequences sometimes.
No, I feared
No,
my mother.
no,
No, but
no,
you fear
man,
the consequences,
the consequences of your mother's actions.
Right,
But
right.
my thing is, I wasn't taught this, but I surmised this from observance. For the most part, we were talking about mama's boys and daddy's girls and things of that nature. And I said the mama's boy is the worst because he seeks his mother's approval for everything, whereas a daddy's girl, she just doesn't want to disappoint
Right.
her father. So all of her actions come from my father taught me better. What would my father think of this particular thing? Because he put so much time and he invested so much into me that I could never let him down because I know that what he was teaching me was, X, Y, Z was good and so on, so on, so forth. So I don't want to disappoint my dad. Whereas the mama's boy is, I'm seeking approval. Like, Ma is okay. Ma, how you like her? Ma, is she good? That
Right.
type of thing. So when it comes down to you and your endeavors, I'm trying to use big words. Right? I'm trying to use big words.
Right.
Did you place more emphasis on your father's word or your mother's feelings?
And to piggyback on that,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think your children will deal with who their influences come from
Okay.
best?
Excellent piggyback.
All right. So I'll start with, I said, not to say that my mother was any sort of joke, because my mother, that's not being said at all.
Uh-huh.
But I did, like I said, I feared my father's wrath, but I also, I guess, respected my mother's wisdom, because she was so open with me about discussing certain things. Like a lot of the conversations I had about things that molded me was from my mother. Like I was like, one of the big things that she told me growing up is, when you go out, she says, I really don't care like what you do when you're out there in the street. Just don't have anybody knocking on my door telling me what you did.
Wow.
And
Sorry, mommy, that happened to me.
right. So, and at first you're like, you think about it, but as I got older, I understood it was just the fact of carrying yourself respectfully out in the street. So you might want to go out and drink. That's fine. Do it respectfully, because I don't want nobody knocking on my door saying you was out there getting drunk and something happened. You did something to someone, So
She didn't want to hear the consequences. She didn't want to hear the consequences of your actions.
Right.
Or
From someone else.
Or don't embarrass the family.
And that's
Because I taught you better.
right.
See, some of the things that we do as adults or as children, Harold, because we were once children, is reflective upon family. Like,
Right.
we cannot embarrass our family. Like, the Fontaines. It's only two of us. It's only four. I mean, well, my father's still alive. I don't really know him, but he's still alive. But and my daughter, Shalise, and we're the Fontaines. And I would always express to my daughter that a name is just an identification to differentiate you from other people. So Fontaine is probably the name of the person that owned our ancestors
Right.
at one time. But in 1992, when she was born, and it was my extinction, right? You are Fontaine of Todd. So here we go. Always operate with the idea that someone else may benefit or may have a detriment upon your actions.
Right.
Always. My grandfather taught me that. He says to me, never be a profiteer. And I say, well, Grandpa, what's a profiteer? He says, a profiteer is someone that just makes money and doesn't think about anyone else. He says, because if you ever do anything illegally, everyone that cares about you will be affected if something happens to you.
Right.
And I didn't really think about that until I went to jail. Because there was people that really cared about me that were like, damn, you all right? You good? Like, not people that worked for me, not people that made money with me or made money because of me, just people that were in general that really cared about me. They were affected. And I didn't really understand it. And I was like, oh, damn. See, I don't have any siblings.
Right.
So I didn't grow up having to care about, am I my brother's keeper? I ain't got no brothers.
Right.
You know, and I ain't got no sisters. My cousins, right, who are cousins down the line, but nevertheless, they still my cousins. Love them to death. Those are my sisters and my brothers. And we went through some tumultuous times as family, through their immediate family. We went through some shit. And we've gotten so strong as we are adults. And it's like, ooh, it feels so good to look at certain cousins and be like, we here.
Yeah, you made it.
We still here. Because we can reflect on our childhood. And shout out to Nikki Dashe.
I swear I was just going to say that.
Shout out to Nikki Dashe. See, and I've said this before, right? My favorite cousin is any cousin that I'm with at the time. because I got a bunch of cousins that's always my favorite cousins. Shout out to my cousin Terrence, who's probably watching on the low and on his secret IG Facebook page. Shout out to my cousin Terrence. That's my dude. Hard body, right? Shout out to my cousin Idris, Shalise. It's a line of cousins that I can name. They're all equally important to me because they are part of my development and continual development as a human being, period. So shout out to all of them.
And I'm going to interject for just 1 second because sometimes you have to keep Todd online. You didn't finish answering the question on my piggyback.
Oh, the piggyback, yeah.
Well, you know what? She just want her goddamn question answered. So guess what? I'm going to shut the fuck up and let him answer her question. Matter of fact, I'm just going to let them two converse. Okay, Cal,
All right.
Just talk to her. Act like I'm not here.
Okay. In terms
And
of
he's going to interject so he will know he's here.
Nope, I'm is not. I'm is not.
Okay, as far as influences, I definitely agree with you in terms of how each child looks at me, because there's instances with my daughter when she does stuff, she's just like, oh, you know, I did this, and I'm like, oh, that's good, and she would literally say, are you proud of me?
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah.
You said you were going to be quiet.
And they were like, and just from that, I understand that she's looking to do things to make sure that I'm good with what she's doing. In terms of my son, I said I'm just hoping, like I said, to be that example for him, to show him, okay, that he's not perfect, and because, in terms of like when looking at a parenthood and you say the whole do as I say, not as do type of thing, I don't particularly abide by that. I'll let my child know, or let him know, it's like, okay, there's certain times I'm going to say something to you and I need you to do it, no questions asked, right? Please do it. Once you're done and we're out of that situation, ask me all the questions you want. I will answer them to you. Like, I will give you the answer that, as best as I can possibly do. But there's certain times I'm not going to, need your input. I just need you to do it. But when I present something to you or need you to do something, there's going to be times where I'm going to be like, well, his name's Kalo. I'm like, Kalo, what do you think of X, Y, and Z? How do you think you should handle this? So I definitely think my actions are the example for him to then hopefully develop himself into the individual that he needs to be going forward.
Okay, so I have two questions for you. One.
Okay. Well, we have a caller. We want to bridge the caller in and then let Sandy answer her question. Caller, you're live on the air. State your name and where you're calling from.
This is Lucky, and I'm calling from Far Rockaway, New York.
Lucky, this is goddamn Londra. It's the homie.
Shut your ass up.
Wow. Listen. This is my homie Londra.
Yes.
Londra.
Yes, and so I just tuned in. I heard you saying something about bad kids, and so my phone is buffering, so I kind of wanted to get in and see what's going on because I have a very, very sore spot for that. Yes.
Okay, Londra
Yes.
Santana, in Puerto Kenya, right? Am I saying it right? In Puerto
No,
Kenya?
you're not saying it right.
Puertorriqueña, sí,
Puerto Riqueña.
Oh, say it again?
Boricua.
No. I want to say
Sí, boricua, sí.
Así,
Sí.
boricua.
Okay.
Yo soy boricua. Y tú? ¿Quién es habla?
Okay, well, Londra, I looked up and got a Puerto Rican woman. God damn.
Thank gosh.
Wow.
Because we the best.
We are.
That's
We
why
the
we're
best
going
of both
to let you know what's going on.
Okay, but Londra, what I would like for you to do, right, is I want Sandy to expound on what she was getting ready to say to
Just give me a second.
right, give her to expound, and I want you to jump in right after. Okay.
Two
See,
questions.
this is what things that I don't really know the topic. All I know is that you guys were talking about like bad kids or whatever. So
you
gotta kind of give me a background here.
You're gonna hear her line of questioning, right?
And then I want to hear about your bad kid story.
Yes.
So, the first question is, at this point, 7 and 11,
Yeah.
do your kids fear you, or do they respect you, or is it a combination of both? And the second question is, because I only have the one kid, and Todd only has the one kid. And I don't know about Todd, but sometimes I wish I could turn back time and fix some things that I did.
Right.
And said, 11 years old, 11 and 12 were the worst years up until my daughter turned 19.
Okay.
Because they're in a teen, they're after a 10, and they have their own personal issues with being a teenager but not being a teenager. How do you deal with that, especially with the subject of bad kids? Because at that point, I feel, and I don't have any data to back it up, but I feel that at that age, 11, 12, it's a turning point. You can go either way, depending on your upbringing.
Right.
Hold on. Londra, hold your horses.
Yes.
I hear you breathing hard.
Ya mismo, mami, ya mismo.
Because
What is ya mismo? No, Londra, hold. We want Kyle to expound on that, and then Londra, just jump in like we at Liberty Pool. God damn it.
Ay, Dios mío, I never did that, but okay. I have my own pool.
No,
Okay,
no,
go ahead.
oh, you are so bougie.
ahead, Cal.
Go ahead. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I would definitely say, for my daughter, it's a fair thing,
Mhm.
and part of it is also because, I guess how I deal with my son in terms of certain reprimands, and I think her seeing that is like, I don't want any parts of that, so I'm good. In terms of my son now, I think it's a combination of both, because as you get older, as you get understanding as to certain things through just me telling him and him going through his own experiences. So with him, I definitely say it's a combination of both, because just recently I had a issue where I reprimanded him on something, and once all was said and done, it was bedtime, and said good nights, love you, ever. And I was like, okay, before we go to bed, I want you to go to sleep, understanding daddy's yelling, daddy's aggression, or whatever, not like physical. So I don't really hit my kids like that. My son, I'm more so I do the poking in the chest type of thing, but I'm not spanking or my kids like that. I'd let him know, yes, I might yell, yes, there's aggression, but I do it so you can understand the severity of what I'm talking about at that present time. I need you to get it through. So I want there to be no mistake in the what I'm trying to communicate to you. So it might sound like yelling and arguing, but at the end of the day, everything I'm doing for you right now is to make sure that you are you are viable citizens to your community when you go older. You need to be just productive people in your community when you be older. So these things that I'm teaching you and telling you whatever is for your benefit. You will understand when you get to my age. I understand right now you might have a problem, but that's the intent behind it.
He's in class.
Right. So, but that was to both of them. I put them there and let them both know, right? Like, at no point does daddy ever want to make you angry, make you sad, or whatever. It's not the point. The point is to get across what I'm trying to, so you can be better people when you get older.
Okay,
Wow.
but you do know you're going to have, and this is just from my personal experience and from men that I've known through my lifetime who have had their children. Your son being 11, when will he be 12?
This year,
Okay.
this September.
Oh,
Virgo's in the building.
it could have been a Libra.
Hold on. We want to bridge another call in. We have a second caller in.
Yeah.
Second caller. Is your last name Dixon?
Correct. Yes.
Is this the homie?
Yes.
Are you laughing and blushing right now?
No.
Liar, pants on fire. Shout out to my homie. Listen, I want you to complete your
Okay, real
question
quick.
with him.
Real quick.
Because we only got
I've
7 minutes left.
Yeah. Real quick, I've learned that for boys, especially between the ages of 12 and 13, there's a certain way that you have to be as a father in order to keep them in line, because, again, that age is an awkward age for them. It's an awkward age for girls. I've told many friends who have boys that at 16 you're going to have to put your son in his place, because at 16 they think that you're frail now and you can't do much, and they're going to challenge you.
Our chest is stuck out. Testosterone kicks in.
You can check. They're going to check you.
I'm sorry. Will you?
I'm done. No,
Okay.
I'm done.
Now. Oh yeah, Mina.
Yes. Are you talking to me?
Yeah. If I say Mina, who the fuck am I talking? If I say look, who I'm talking to?
Shut
Landra. I need you to express your point. Give your story.
Okay.
Within 2 minutes, please.
Okay. All right. I don't have human children, but what I'm saying is that, I had this conversation today about the way really how children are raised and how they grow up and everything. And it's not it doesn't begin at the age of 12 or 13. It's when they are born and how they are raised and nurtured.
Facts.
So there's a problem. There's a problem with society right now because these people are. I'm going to say that.
When you say these people,
Yeah.
who are these people?
That's what I'm just saying.
Listen, we from South Side. Stop it.
Yeah, keep it 100.
Laundry, we from South Side. Come on now. Stop your BS.
Okay, all right. Stop. Okay. And like I said, I worked in labor and delivery. I've seen 12-year-olds have 2 babies at 12 years old. You know what I'm saying? 10 months apart. That's crazy. But Southside or whatever, that means nothing. This is happening all over the place.
Do you consider those bad kids, though? Do you consider those 12-year-olds bad kids?
No, I don't consider them bad kids. I consider their parents that weren't watching because out of every case that I've seen, it was incest.
Ooh.
Wow.
It was incest.
Yeah.
And and it's horrible. But you can't blame a parent for everything. But there's some point you gotta instill something in your children,
but
where they know things are wrong.
Yeah, but there are sometimes where, and again, I don't have any data, but there are some instances where a parent does everything right, everything that they can do, and
correct.
the kid still,
you're right,
because they challenge everything that the parent says or does or shows.
Especially nowadays, we have no right. We can't. Boy, these kids can get away with all kinds of stuff, all kinds of things that in our age group we couldn't get away with. And they have the law on their side, and it's just it's crazy.
Gotcha.
Okay. Or pause for a minute. Miss Dixon, you on the line, right?
Yes.
Okay. I need a strong 2 minutes, and I know you can give me a strong 2 minutes. I need a strong 2 minutes with your whole perspective and somology from what we talking about.
Okay, so with the bad children thing, I really feel like it's with the parenting. Like, children are young. Children need guidance. They like discipline. Like, I'm a young parent. I'm only 34, and my child is only 9. But I feel like I'm an old soul when it comes to him. From young, I knew I wanted to be able to look at my child, and he knew not to do nothing or it was okay to do something. And it wasn't because I wanted him to be scared of me. I want him to respect me, but I kind of do need him to have that little fear in me. And you need to teach that to the kids young. Like, I don't want it to be where I don't beat my kid. I don't have to beat him. He's a child where he doesn't have to get spankings. I could yell at him and you think I beat the brakes off him.
Okay, Ms. Dixon.
I happen to like your son because he was one of the first kids that were on the show in terms of our youth thing, and I like him. He's a nice dude, and I swear on everything I love. If you're mean to your son, I will give you a beating.
But Ms. Dixon, I have a question.
Sure.
And then you're talking about upbringing. Miss
Dixon,
doesn't mean, you can do everything for your child. Doesn't mean that he's going to not curse or whatever. But this is what it is.
Laundra, we have one last question that's addressed to Miss Dixon. Sandy?
Ms. Dixon, it sounds like you're doing everything possible to raise your son up right, your 9-year-old. But what are you going to do when that boy hits 14, 15 years old, and he has the influence of his friends? And I say this because, on a very simple note, We
only got 30 seconds.
Okay.
Miss Dixon, what you gonna do when he is 17? What you gonna do?
He does have friends that he's had since young, and they do hang out together, and we go through instances of what would he do about bullying and stuff like that. So I try to keep it cool with him so he can talk to me about anything, to the point where when peer pressure and all that comes about, we can kind of like steer through it together. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Okay, so now on that note, Straight No Chaser, Todd Fontaine, the talk show. Bring your son back up here.
Will do.
Damn it. I'm sorry, yo. We have a time.